Recorded. Okay, so I think our focus today is to look at chapter 2 and sort of work through, are there any areas where we need some discussion and clarification and all that, to be ready to kind of introduce it.
Yes.
And help me, Sky, because you sent me very nicely a something about changing the schedule.
Oh, yes,
And
they're canceling
The
the
24th of July.
24th of July, yes.
And that's great because I was going to move my vacation day forward in order to be there, so that's.
Yeah, they wanted a break, and honestly, I'll probably take a vacation then too.
Great.
So, yes, I didn't finish it up today. I apologize. I've been kind of out flat. They're canceling just wholesale the second planning board meeting in July. They're not doing development or workshops. So everything will just move back a month, a week, or like a meeting. I will send you guys an updated one.
Okay.
This week or next week. The first one in July still stands, so I didn't feel that it was,
But not this one.
yes, so like the 10th,
10th.
you'll still need to be there. This is still the introduction to Article 2. And Article 8 and form-based for them. They don't have any development at this second June one. This is the zones one that is the non-center based zones one. So we're gonna, I think, dig in there hopefully, and then they'll be ready for center zones in the beginning of July. We'll kind of introduce it, and then they'll come back to them in August for at least one meeting.
So July 10th will be our introduction.
Yes.
Of
Yep.
Article 2, which, to be honest, it's gonna be, I think, something they've all heard, except unless they're brand new members of the planning board, because they've been part of workshops. on
Yeah,
Article 2,
they should.
But
Him maybe not, but
true.
he would be the only one, I
Yeah.
think. Though it's been a while, so I think that we just need to be gracious with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Because it will help discussion.
and you guys are meeting on July 7th, right? Oh, I was checking with you about when CPIC is meeting in July, Susan, because I'm
Right.
thinking about trying to take a week off
Ah.
then.
Right. And and I didn't bring my agenda, which is where I take all of my notes. And my note that, July, I don't know what we
I
decided.
think we decided on the 7th,
That makes sense.
because then you could do it before the 10th.
Yeah,
To kind of to group yourselves for
Yes.
that meeting. And I just wanted to check if you guys were still intending to hold another meeting or workshop in July. My thought was no, that you were done after the 7th,
I
that you
think
were
that's
kind of
right.
taking a little break too.
because we're gonna have to be at planning.
Yes,
board
you'll already be
meetings.
doing 2
Yes.
meetings. Yes.
I think are we all aligned on that? So, no, it's all around.
Yeah,
I'll be away for quite a lot of August.
Okay, yeah. So, July 7th, CPIC will meet.
And
Yeah, that's,
I had it from 4:30 to 6. Was there a reason it was earlier, or maybe I just?
that's our normal time.
Yeah, 4:30 to 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know what? It is.
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to sound, I got nervous for a second. No worries, no worries. Okay, great. So CPIC is meeting on July 7th. You'll be at the July 10th planning board.
Yeah.
You have no plans for the latter half of the month. Okay, great. Sky's gonna take a week off.
Yes, please. And we will have to post the agenda on Monday, the 30th. And so if we could set up a meeting.
Yes.
To do that, that would be great, like 9:30-ish. I'm just gonna write in some, CPIC agenda meeting.
On the 30th? Oh yeah, we don't need to do that till next week.
Right, but I'm gonna be away as of Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Okay.
Sunday to Montreal, so. Given my travel is nuts, so I have to think ahead.
Do we want to potentially, I mean, obviously we'll need to check this with Rick,
With
but
Rick,
I could
yeah.
do the 27th. We oftentimes
No,
do
I'm
that
gonna be
Friday.
in
Oh, you're
Montreal
away
at that
then.
point.
Okay,
Yeah, that's okay.
you're leaving like in a couple days and then away for like over a week.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I hope you have a lovely time. That sounds
Yeah,
delightful.
it's on and off, but I'm not gonna be around that
Okay.
Thursday, Friday, so.
So the 30th you wanna do?
30th, Yep, and
Okay.
Rick will join us or not.
Yep,
Um,
I should be fine to do that.
Okay,
Sorry, everyone, just figured it was good to get that scheduled.
yeah, a little admin. um, Okay, so then, just to focus on planning board workshops for a second, then we'll go back to August, it will be
The
the
14th.
14th and the 28th.
Yep.
And the 14th will be the sort of part two.
Yes,
of-
and I
okay.
think at that point, the planning board has requested that they kind of take a look at their schedule and see how they're doing with it. You know, there was some concern about having too much in one meeting, I think because their next meeting has 4 articles, though one of them is really not real because they don't need to review Article 11. It is just a copy paste in floodplain management.
Right,
But there was some nervousness, so I will just note that it's possible there could be changes at that point too.
okay,
And I think it'll also depend on how the center zones talk goes. If we can fly through it, great.
Yeah.
If it takes longer, I think we did prepare for that contingency mentally that they might need time with that one.
Okay.
At least I have.
alright. So, thank you for reminding me when our meeting is, I like that.
Well, we changed it too.
We did.
We did, yeah.
And I was basically trying to say, you guys doing anything for the second half of the month? Because I don't want to be here.
Right, go away. Yeah. Think about everything but us.
The intern asked me the other day, you know, if I was busy, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty busy, you know, the higher up you get with things, the more it's brain stuff that you're doing, less
Yeah.
busy work, you're
Yeah.
thinking about things. And she's very astutely said, oh, and are you able to stop thinking?
Good question.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's the effort every day.
Yeah,
Put it down.
Yeah.
My husband tried to, when he drives out of Brunswick Hostel where the sign is, he
Mhm.
tries to like leave it.
yeah, yeah.
I sometimes try to when I go over the bridge, but I'm not always successful.
No, nor is.
Yeah,
it's a
my
good
part,
intention.
my partner is a planner too, so sometimes we feed off of each other.
Mm,
It's not great.
Well, I'm a twofer also,
Oh.
retired, but
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
so you get it. Okay, I feel like we've taken.
That's all of our introductory energy, we're settling down now, and it is 4:17, okay. So looking at Article 2, you know, the things that are in the early part of that article, I mean, anybody chime in with anything we need to talk about, but I had nothing on the first few pages because the changes there, I think, have all been very carefully talked about in terms of the names and, there's stuff around principal uses, but that's just referenced.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the only other thing
Six.
I'll note for you guys, and I'm sorry I didn't note this before, is, you know, I assume that you guys are, you know, have reviewed all of the red changes, which I know you don't have a color copy. I can
But
pull one up
they're
if we'd
under-
like to look
they're-
one too. Yes, well,
Are they not?
no, they're both underlined. Here, let me pull one up. This would actually be helpful for you guys. I think. Not.
I should get on the other side.
Yeah, come right here.
Oh,
come on.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
You can get these are lovely flowers. Yeah.
That's our Bowden Cup, which the best department wins from the interns at the end of the summer. Okay, let's go to Article 2, just because the color coding does help. So
Yeah.
a lot of this page is red changes, which are changes that have been in the code since last March. The blue changes are new this March or
Okay.
April.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I did not make that clear to you guys
So let's
earlier.
Go up a little bit, guys, I wanna make sure, yeah, I see, yeah, there are just two different kinds of.
It does look a
Yeah.
little different in the black and white, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
kind of explicit, and I figured it would be helpful for what we're doing to just, I can put it up there, why not?
Yeah.
And I'll actually share my screen, so it's in the Zoom.
Great. Everybody will see it.
Everyone who's here, all 0 people,
Right.
get rid of this, because we don't need that. All right. So basically just trying to say that, you know, a lot of the changes on the front have already been seen by CPIC.
Yeah.
You know, the only two that I see here that are new are these ones, which I'm not saying you should have any issues with them or anything, just.
Is it just, it seems like it's just about definitions, you know, to be clear, like
Mhm.
what principal use
Yes.
versus accessory.
And I
Yes.
think that either the code officer or the attorney requested that change.
So one of the things on this chart here, now this sounds maybe kind of ridiculous, but when I look at this chart, and it's gonna say there, applies to all principal buildings, right? It's going to, the chart is gonna be labeled that way somehow.
I think it implies that because of something earlier,
That was something that,
or was that an attorney comment?
I
Okay,
think so, that came up in our meeting,
all right, then I'm gonna trust you on that one.
yeah. I mean, that's, I don't know what he wants, that this applies to all principal buildings, not accessory
Hmm,
buildings. So things like, we're talking about sheds and whatever, you know,
Or
that those will not be. They're covered by Article 6,
Mm-hmm,
accessory.
yes,
uses.
I think. Hold on, this is the one that has comments in it, I wasn't bringing it up,
So
so.
you didn't, you said you didn't have time to have a discussion with Leslie about things.
No,
like
she was not available. So under 240 here,
yeah.
this is his comment, applies to all principal buildings. Are there any of these requirements that would also, this is just a question where he's kind of bringing our attention to it. So if the answer is we're fine with how they've written it, then there won't be any changes there. Is the comment.
And, okay, and in 240, so this doesn't need to be said here
Mhm.
on the chart, it's said
I
here.
wonder if I have the wrong version, because that
Oh, I see.
blue box
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a comment that
Oh,
I,
I've
so
got
this is my version that I created for myself.
Got it.
That has all the comments aggregated, or I'm working to get comments aggregated into it.
And this was the attorney's, just sort of saying, you're
Yeah.
okay with this.
Yeah, basically, and so yeah, he's not saying we have to make changes, he was just saying, hey, this is what this is this all right? And that's why it says CPIC follow-up, because I said, you know, this is Article 2, CPIC should make that determination, and I think at the last
Mhm.
meeting, my understanding was that you guys
Yeah,
said, that's okay,
that's
we
fine,
think it's fine, we
that's fine.
trust them to have done that right, so
Yeah.
that was what I got from that, which I will actually just put something in, we'll just stay in this one, actually, this will be good, you guys can see any comments, they're mostly attorney, though there are two from Brian Banton in here, which we can go past if you want.
But-
Good as is,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Now, one of the things I wanted to just ask about this chart,
Mm-hmm.
2-2, building regulations by zone. So in the column to the left, the front street setback, side street setback, there's a feet in parentheses, comma, minimum, maximum. And so they're all in feet, and so it's a lower village. There's a front street setback of as little as 0 and up to a maximum of 15 feet, okay. And yeah, okay. There was something completely crossed out here, which is
It's this one,
interior.
interior side setbacks.
Yeah.
And it's just 5, and apparently it's going the way of mixed residential in Middle Village, where it says between different building types is removed, so it's just gonna say 5.
Right. So the minimum, maximum are the same, it's just minimum, there's no maximum.
For interior side setback,
Mhm.
that's just minimum, that one doesn't have maximum at all.
So 5 stays there.
Yeah, it's just confusingly written,
Yeah.
so this one, yeah.
Good.
Yep.
I'm putting my. How do I respond to questions cap on?
Yeah, no, I think we talked about this one. It is a confusing little thing, but it's just, there's only gonna be one, which is the same as these two. It's gonna apply to everything.
Okay. Moving on to, I have nothing until 2-6, but anything on 2-4, 2-5. We start out here with on 2-4 with the waivers completely struck. at the bottom of, it's 2.40.4 G.
Yeah, down
no
here.
longer. And I just, my worry is that this is, in some of the cases, it may be the right thing, but if we can get a better result by offering flexibility with certain criteria to be met. That became clear in the attorney's presentation to us. And it was like, and I don't think there was a response, particularly not a discussion with Leslie and Kirk, but I remember Kirk saying, this has been very helpful. So
Mhm.
I was assuming that would be carried forward. It would take a little time.
Yeah,
And I don't know if the time issue has been handled because it becomes, of course, a budget issue. So I don't want to delay things any more than they're delayed.
no, I understand, and I understand why you guys feel that way. Maybe I'll see if I can. I'm not sure if it's a budget issue or not,
Yeah,
in all honesty.
yeah,
I may try to talk to Mark about this just because budget has been surprisingly okay with this project,
yeah.
and let me put a note on that.
okay,
If that's CPIC's kind of official stance, is that you guys are disappointed that they didn't do anything more creative here, let me take that comment and see
Yeah.
what I can do with
yeah.
it.
I
In other
felt
words, to build in more flexibility.
exactly.
Yeah,
There
that
there
seems,
had been a desire for that. And I think the response from the consultants was, yes, we can handle that. But after the attorney's comments, it was, you can only handle it that way
Yeah,
with criteria.
yeah.
Design
I mean, I
standard.
thought he was pretty decent in that he said
Yeah.
that there's ways to do it, you
Do it.
just have to write it a
That's right.
certain way.
Yeah.
And it just seemed that they kind of they said no waivers, we're gonna delete them.
that was the easy, you
Yes.
just brought it up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, let me write this up and I'll just have you guys affirm that it's how you feel. So disappointed by lack of creative responses to necessity. Wait, responses to necessity of waiver removal. Attorney laid out that flexibility is available, but must be written in a specific way. We are only seeing flexibility removed. Does that feel accurate?
yeah.
Yes,
Okay. This is why I wanted you guys to look at this, because it is,
Standard man.
there are changes that have happened.
Okay. All right. Waiver number 1. And
Okay.
so, and attached on the 2-40-.6. In the second column, that attached structured parking, that's, I think, I'm not pretending that I understand that fully, but I remember that point when we said, let's incentivize and allow for
I
that.
think this is different than that. This is basically just
Open
stating
structure.
attached structured parking. And originally, like, it just, attached structured parking exists. It must comply, with the, requirements of 740
Yeah,
and,
650.
650-10.
yeah,
And at the time, there had been, hey, unless you get a waiver, then you can have more flexibility, but that was another instance of it was just removed.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of that stuff is an issue, honestly. Have there been any complaints that the requirements around structured parking are too onerous?
not specifically, but I'm anticipating.
it's when people start using the code that we're gonna.
I know, I understand,
That's
yeah.
good. I mean, that's, codes exist to be changed.
So currently 740, it isn't very long. Building type regulations, detached accessory parking structures may only occur in lots of general or traditional storefront buildings in the commercial, mixed use, mixed transitional, master plan district, and mixed residential zones. Geez, those should be allowed by suburban storefronts too, probably. If we're gonna try to incentivize those in Topsom Fair Mall. Or no? Maybe not?
Say that again.
It isn't allowed with a suburban storefront building.
The suburban storefront would be like Rusty's or,
No, it would be like anything in Topsom Fair Mall.
okay.
Those like single story.
They don't tend to
Like a
have
Starbucks.
accessory buildings.
No, they don't, but do we want to say they can't?
There, I mean, that's the only place that suburban storefronts are allowed as by
Mhm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make, well. You brought up the point of allowing that kind of accessory parking, because it's with a roof.
Mhm.
You would,
Oh, yeah, accessory parking or accessory buildings?
Parking, but it is an accessory building.
Okay.
Yeah.
structured parking. I guess the idea that to not encourage, but at least allow for
Mhm.
covered parking,
Mm-hmm.
it would cut down on the requirement for salt.
Yeah.
That's right. I was just thinking of in Baltimore, in Towson, Maryland, where my brother-in-law lives, there's a Whole Foods that has covered adjacent covered
Mhm.
parking area.
Huh. And how does that operate? Have you kind of noticed?
It has a gate, you know, you go in, just, you get a
Yeah.
ticket, and
Yeah.
after you shop, I think it's free. Yeah, we didn't use it, because we walked over from his house. We could walk over.
Because it was walkable.
There was a nice big sidewalk.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm not saying that I think it'll happen a lot, but I don't know if we want to
prohibit it.
prohibit it.
I guess that's one of those things,
Topsom doesn't have that kind of presence right now, but it could.
it could. And
I mean, if someone
I
comes
want to
in.
hear is from, from Leslie, like,
Mhm.
are there reasons why we would want it? She's done this in a lot of different areas,
That's right.
probably not for Topsom, but she's had experience with this kind of. So 2-4. And where it's referring to 740. And where does it say the thing about,
742.
okay, detached may occur only on lots of general or traditional storefront building in the commercial mixed use, mixed transitional master plan district and.
So actually,
Okay.
I just realized the reason that they can't be allowed with suburban storefronts is that they must be at least 1 story lower than the tallest principal structure, so that would be a 0 story.
Yeah.
So maybe that isn't anything, but I'll make a note to try to talk to her about it.
And I wonder with something like even a Whole Foods, I don't know if you even noticed, Robin, that was that more than 1 story tall?
The Whole Foods was 2 stories.
Yeah, that's.
That's the difference. Yeah, it was
yeah.
a 2-story building, so the parking was like, whatever.
It's the way, because so much of is like how
Urban
that's gonna.
design.
Right.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it was interesting because they had a little coffee bar, and we got a coffee and went upstairs, and they had a little arcade and
Yeah,
things for
yeah.
kids, and
Right,
so it was
becomes like
big
a community center sort of thing,
Place to go.
place to gather. Yeah.
3rd place.
Yeah,
where people doing work, on laptops.
yeah.
So basically, all the change that happened here is that prior to this, you could have gotten some of this waived,
Mhm.
but now you can't. You are. Oh, well, would you look at that? I think one got missed here.
So
So maybe not.
where,
Actually, that's a great.
1740.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a waivers section which didn't get removed,
Right,
and
is this
Phil
one?
didn't flag it.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder if the 24061 did not need to be struck.
744D, that's the thing, right?
Yes, I think so. Sorry, yes. Did this.
proofread paper.
Oof.
Okay. So we've handled page 2-4. And we're going on to 2-5. We're talking about attached structured parking location in the buildings. All of that
All of that
makes
is,
good sense to me.
yeah, and none of that's a new change. That's all red.
All red. Okay.
Yeah.
So back in March.
Yep. Like over a year ago.
Right. Okay, we're coming to my first issue, which is on 2-6. At the bottom of the first column. 249C. Screening. I was reading this carefully because I remember some comments from some of the developers about where trash is and isn't. So it just this, it refers to 290-B, and that doesn't match.
Okay.
It's on page 2-17. And I might be missing something. You tell me.
Yeah, that's
Doesn't
actually,
make any
nope,
sense.
that's the general building.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So that, whatever figure they wanna refer us to.
Which is great. Didn't even think we had one that did that.
Give me a million questions for this.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So. In the next column, front streets, designation, Topsham Fair Mall Road, blah, blah, blah. These I think are new, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think these are in response to what we asked for in January.
Yep.
Yep.
Which felt like a really good
Mm-hmm.
discussion.
Yep.
And some good, I mean, that's the way, when we talk about infill. And I had no idea, like, how do you infill in the Topsham Fair Mall? It's like, here we go. This
Mm-hmm.
is how it works. And, you know, looking at the code. I mean, we had to build in some ways in which people can plan their projects. So this all looked good to me. I have one tiny thing on page 2-7. The perpendicular street. It refers to the approval of the zoning administrator.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you. Where is that? Yep,
it's,
here we go.
yeah. So 251. B.
Distracted.
Perpendicular street. I mean, there may be other,
We've caught a couple other ones.
yeah, good. Can you search this thing?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not that you have all of the things to search
Yep.
for, but this is one of them that,
Yep,
so we're just gonna change that to code enforcement officer.
probably, yes.
Okay, and this, you know, I can't say that I feel, like I understand this front to back, but it makes sense to me. And then there are a couple of illustrations where in a sense, the access road,
Mm-hmm.
was illustrated, that is helpful.
Right, where are we at?
So I'm on page 2, so we've handled the 2-7. 2-8. Just a quick question, at the very top of that column, 2-8. It talks about how the street may not terminate at a parking lot, and it refers to something about vistas, right? Cause it's,
Here.
yeah. That makes complete sense in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but. And
Could
this
get
is-
really
this is
complicated.
not about there's a lot more about this in the MPD.
Sorry, where are you looking?
On page 2-7,
Oh, all right, sorry,
Yeah.
2-8.
and it goes on to 2-8.
Oh,
'cause
there it
it's
is.
the
I see, I
vistas.
see.
Yeah,
Yep.
the vistas. And I just wanted to make sure, I mean, I'm anticipating that, that complaints about rigidity,
Yeah,
no. To give you
I'm
vistas.
gonna check something really quickly.
Perpendicular street must terminate at a lot containing either a designated preserved open space or a front building facade. Yeah,
This one might not apply for that here, which is definitely one of the ones that we talked about. This one would fit that there because it would terminate at a facade.
and it's
Um,
potentially,
this one would not, which is a problem.
So that's out of compliance. Over by Smitty's.
Over by Smitty's, which is almost, that's basically a road, honestly, if it isn't, I'm not seeing it listed as one, but that's the one that's most road-like.
Mhm,
And Winter Circle is a road.
mhm.
So then would you need to like have them? They would go like this or something, I don't. That's fair. I'm seeing two out of compliance here, the
Right.
Target one and the one by Schmitty's.
right. Cause all of this was done. It doesn't say the only thing we're talking about is Topsham Fair Mall, but that's in a sense.
Yeah,
that's
no, I
where
agreed.
it's Part of it. So, and I think we've been trying, I've been understanding that building in non-compliance is not a good thing,
No, they don't like it. And the planning board didn't like it.
right?
Um. You know. I wonder if this is an instance where,
You just override.
yeah, to me, it kind of seems like it's an instance where, yeah, you don't necessarily want it to always go into a parking lot, but if they're needing to set that straight, it's because they're trying to do infill in
Yeah.
a parking lot, so
Right. You
is that a
can't-
bad thing to discourage?
And I guess what I would say is there a way to, if at all possible, or, to avoid.
I
having
like
it
that,
be
that the language be encouraging without being rigid.
requirements.
It's really
That's
hard to do that
tricky.
in zoning, yeah.
So, well,
You could allow, both of those would be fine if it like, if this, if. Maybe we could write something in about, because both of those, they didn't terminate at a building, they terminated right next to a building, like they went right next to a building. So maybe there can we put in some language that, termination can also refer to the left and right of the end of the road or something like that.
So is this something that you would consult Leslie on?
A lot of
Yeah,
this I need
yeah,
to start
good,
there about,
good,
because this is Leslie's, I mean,
Yeah,
she's written
yeah,
this, I would
yeah.
have done it differently. But I would have done it differently in that any other person would do things differently,
yeah, just in general that we
Yeah,
all think.
yes,
like
exactly.
that.
Yes, not to say like I have some master plan I'm not sharing with you guys.
It's like if I ran the zoo. It's a children's group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So that was 2-8, and that's the only thing there. And I wrote down 2-9. We discussed this in our meeting a week ago Monday. In terms of I think, about rewriting so that 10% is waivable, design or dimensional of the next.
Oh.
Wrote down,
Sorry, where are you on?
page 2-9.
Yes, okay.
266.
Yes.
Um. And so I think that's all been discussed, and that's gonna be discussed with Leslie.
These are the comments from the attorney flagged this one, so
Okay.
it'll have to be. like, The attorney flagged this, Tom and I talked about it with him,
Yeah.
the easiest answer without changing anything, and this
Yeah.
is why I say, you just to write certain zoning a certain ways, we just remove the word dimensional, dimensions,
Right.
and then it's a design standard, not a
Ah,
dimensional standard.
Got it.
So that's really all, it's writing it differently because
Got it.
it could go either way right now.
So that's the way to handle it.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so here's my one little thing. Which is just I mean, when we get into things like this little chart, table 2-3. Allowed building types by zone. The only question I have here. Is. The general building in the upper village, it's not allowed, and I think we probably discussed this. Does that make sense to you to?
Oh, Jesus, no, that has to be allowed there, thank you. Because otherwise, Dave Holman can't do what he wants to do,
General building,
that's what he needs.
but he's not in the upper village, he's in the mixed transitional.
What? Oh, they switched, that's right, sorry, it's in the equivalent of upper village now.
Right.
Someone got confused about her maps.
We're talking about the one up by the tire.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So,
It's a small mixed transitional.
yeah, I mean, the village, upper village, which gosh, did we change that? That's also confusing. Upper village is, along 196. It's here, it's around there.
Yeah.
It's up, Monument to the medical building. It does not include Dunkin' Donuts. And it is the front part of the Union Park neighborhood, not the back part. Is that something that you guys want to allow there? The big apartment buildings, that's what a general building is. It's it's the 4-story apartment buildings or
Right.
3-story.
Because right now, the general building
Like in
is
other words,
allowed.
you could have a big apartment building right across the street.
Yeah, which has been proposed, so
Yeah.
good point. Okay, thanks.
I'm just, because right now it's only allowed, obviously in master plan district, but mixed residential, that's the annex. Mixed
You would-
transitional,
Yeah.
commercial mixed use. So I'm thinking,
God, it should be allowed.
I mean. If we wanted to be very cautious, we could say allowed with conditional use, but
I wouldn't.
I would think. we just wanna-
You'll potentially upset Dan Catlin if you don't do this. Thank you for bringing that lot up in that way, Robin, because currently he can do a large apartment building there, and the
Yeah.
changes that we made for 4 Union apply over there as well, because they're in the same zone. If we do not allow this, that lot will have less
Yeah.
ability
Less sale.
under
Yeah.
recode than it does now.
You don't want to.
So I'm
That would
looking,
be
just
nice
the
to
hell of
see
it,
that.
I'm looking
Agreed.
at the general building specifications, I wanna see how many stories,
It's only like 3.5.
building height, story height. Okay, it goes up to 3.5, up to 4.5, allowed with structured parking.
Yep, which is what we have
Yes.
now.
Yeah, yeah, and, the story heights are 9 to 12 feet. It makes sense to me, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Good catch.
yes.
Yep, this is why I really appreciate that you guys did this.
So you're in the middle village now?
No,
No,
sorry.
Upper.
Oh, I did accidentally. Thank you, Pete. We're in the upper village, but my comment accidentally included middle village.
Okay.
We were just checking to see if you were paying attention.
This is why we all need to look at it.
Ah.
Little things get missed.
Okay, allow general. In. Upper. Okay, hot dog. Moving on to page 2-10, this is another one. Where we I think there were attorney comments around that only applies to C and D, not to E.
Mm-hmm,
Is the waiver coming out?
yeah.
Yeah.
This is when I had said, do you guys want to do more height? And you were like, yes, and so that's what I'll talk to Leslie about.
Right.
And this is the one change to C and D, so I would say that this page is pretty well covered.
Okay, on to. For me, I didn't have anything to talk about until 2-14.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of making sure that we are clear about what's happening here. This is in response to attorney comments. I had some a question mark and around the street and courtyard facade, transparency and entrances and the building height. Was there something maybe I was confused? Is there something going on there that?
Oh, it's this one, you can see it here. Hmm. It's just another height one.
Cannot allow for additional height without a variance. So what did we decide to do there?
This was another one where I'm gonna talk to Leslie about,
Okay, good.
allowing anywhere, maybe we can put something blanket in the code that says, anytime that there is a suggestion of, or when, when it refers to 267, maybe somewhere we can just write something in that says, if you want to have extra height, here are the criteria you would need to meet, irregardless of zone and building type.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just a general thing. I don't know what the right choice will be. I'll talk to Leslie about
There's
it.
probably some limitation on.
Yes.
something, But still,
Let's
that's.
see if we can make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mhm.
So then I had nothing until page 2-23. Anybody else have things to
If you would
chew on?
like me to bring up a comment that I've received from Brian Banton regarding row buildings, I can.
Sure. From who?
Brian Banton.
Yep, sure.
Where is row building? So Brian, I think,
What page are
we've,
we on?
that's a really great question. If anyone finds row building, please tell me what page.
Oh, yeah, 2-19.
Oh, yeah, here it is. Yes, and it's 211. Yep, so it would actually be 2-20 because it's the back
Okay.
of it.
Yeah.
So he had two comments for me that I was able to distill down. He was interested in seeing, he was like, well, actually, this isn't row building, this is village building. He's like, I'd like to maybe see a wider segment on that one. Currently, the segment is already wider in Middle Village than it is elsewhere. I don't think that comment necessarily needs to be brought in.
Acted on.
Yeah, acted upon.
Yeah.
But the one I do think has some merit and falls in line with what we're seemingly trying to do here is he would like to be allowed to do more units in a row building than it physically looks like outside. So
Mhm.
say you have the facade of a 3-unit row building, he would like to have the flexibility to do 6 small units rather than 3 larger units. I don't know why things were done the way they were with row buildings and units. He explained to me that it's a lot cheaper for him to build a row building than a village building because everyone had discussed, I guess, before I really got involved with this, that you guys would do 5+ units in the Middle Village.
Yeah.
Because that's in the table.
Yeah.
And that the village building was the way to do so. And I said, well, why do you want this? Because you can do it with the village building. What's the problem? He was
Yeah.
like, it would cost so much more.
Huh.
And I was like, well, I don't know why I'm fighting this because this is something that I'm probably pro. If it looks okay on the outside,
yeah.
what do we care? Because if you have a 2-bedroom row house
Mhm.
and you have 3 of them, or you have 6 1-bedrooms, that may very well be the same amount of cars. Or it may be less, or might be more, if it's parking we're getting at, maybe we should have parking restrictions, but I plan to bring it up to Leslie and kind of try to ask her, but since we're doing this and this
Yeah,
is an Article
no,
2, I will bring up that he's brought that up, and I think it's a fair point, and I don't like arguing against something I don't agree with necessarily.
No, I
Mhm.
hear you. So just focus us on this table.
It's the top row, building configuration.
Yeah.
A row building is comprised of multiple
Multiple
side-by-side vertically
vertically
oriented units. Yeah, Sherry.
Common interior sidewalls, so that just makes me picture like Philadelphia, Trenton, New Jersey, like,
Yeah,
row-
I don't think there's anything wrong with it, this is the image of it,
Yeah.
but this could be 3 units
That's right.
rather than 1.
Be chopped up inside.
It could be chopped up inside without probably, you know,
Like little efficiency of.
yeah, if that's what he feels that the market is what it needs.
But is he possibly being too literal in this language? Because a unit here doesn't necessarily mean an apartment.
And I do want to bring this up to Leslie and say, hey, this is what he wants. And that's why, you know, I didn't
Segment.
necessarily, but it doesn't say segment, it does say units.
Yeah.
And I do think that she has pushed back on this
Yeah.
potentially before, but
Well,
this is one
there's
I would,
So, you know, there's effects for, you know, sewerage, water, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the
and-
system is already, I think, a little bit tight.
Right.
In terms of
It's an
capacity.
old, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if it is in that location,
Yeah.
honestly.
That would be something that
yeah.
to be worked out.
Yeah, but I guess the thing is that, you know, those will limit development. We can't, you know, if it limits it, it limits it. Do we want to be the ones limiting it?
Right.
Is the question, you know? And I think,
Because I mean, you could have studio.
That's right.
Mhm.
And there is a need for
For like young people to just have. a
or
place.
empty nesters who now, you know, could be a single person whose spouse has gone to heaven. The nest is empty and you wanna, you know,
Be able to walk to town.
yeah, exactly.
I do have one question because he did bring up, you know, oh, I think that, because I think somewhere in here it says you can only have 1 external door per unit or
Yes,
something.
Yeah,
And I think he's like, well, I'd like to see multiple external doors per unit, which I don't know how I feel about that necessarily. I would
Yeah.
want to talk to Leslie. I don't know if
Yeah.
you could do 1 in the front and 1 in the back.
It seems like there would have to be a hallway internally.
I would agree with that. Yeah, that you would need
Heat
to, yeah.
Apartments
Mhm.
and then 1 door.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
To each row.
And I can absolutely state that you're fine with however many units, but you want to maintain the external view of
Yeah.
it being, you know, 3, and that means 3 doors, and then you would need an internal staircase and hallway. Okay, great. If that's okay with you guys, I would say that I would agree with that because too many doors can get messy.
and there's just a visual difference that
Mhm.
we wanna
Yep.
have more simplified. Visual there, middle village. It's the edge of middle village, but still. that's what it
I
is.
know, but I do also think, you know, if someone, he's the one bringing it up, but if someone else wanted to do it, you know,
Yeah,
I don't know if that's something I would feel like we need to control, but if it's just the doors that's the issue, I'll need to talk to Leslie is the
Yeah.
long and short of this. Yeah,
Be
yeah,
interesting to hear what she has. to say.
yeah. I don't feel like I have all the answers
Well,
here, you
what's so
know.
interesting about Topsham is that these little situations.
yeah,
Are like real and present
Yeah.
and we somehow wanna encourage. The
In-
development within
density,
these lovely
yeah,
constraints.
yeah.
But you know, it's tricky because then whatever we establish becomes precedent and everybody has.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
It is a thorny subject.
And
right.
we know that future changes will happen once
right.
this code is.
Yes. Yep.
This is like writing a curriculum.
Job
Every
security.
5 years.
It's just-
Uh,
So you brought up 220, that's great, we've done that. Anything have we kind of handled the,
That's great.
Outstanding.
That's
Yeah.
great for me because when I talk to Leslie, I can say, hey, CPIC agrees with
Yeah.
me. Which is always helpful.
so my next one is on 223 and on 2-23, and you'll love it because it's just a typo.
Oh, great.
Under 133C. There, an S is needed on the second uses. Uses allowed in this building type are limited to only those uses
Ah,
listed in the civic and blah, blah, blah. Put an S on.
I'm gonna write CPIC so you guys get the credit. Great. All right, what's next?
Two
Good
dash.
for you.
I know.
She could be
Yeah.
a copy editor.
Ain't no compulsive. 2-25, we start with master plan developments, just fascinating to me, so. I have a couple of things on that page, and they're all in the second column under the applicability stuff.
Okay.
It's in the undevelopable land is interesting. I'm I just wanted to check with you, Guy, because it's gonna be determined by the planning director. Is that a good thing? I don't know. That if somebody really wants to develop and it's undevelopable, like, do you want?
Oh, no, that's not what I'll be determining. It would be if someone comes in, so
Yeah.
like if the lot across the street were
Like
Like had wetlands or
had-
Yeah.
or the steep slopes is another
Yeah,
thing too.
yeah.
So, and that one might even, so, say they have a 7-acre lot,
Yeah.
but 3 of it is
Is
steep
undeveloped.
slopes or
Yeah.
wetlands.
Yeah.
It would be me verifying a plan
Okay,
from someone else
Mm.
that says
Ah,
there's
got
this
it.
much on it.
so it's only 4 acres? You
It's
don't
only
have
4
to
acres of
use the master plan
developable.
develop-
You don't need to do
Okay.
master plan. And I think most planning directors would require wetland scientists or,
Yeah,
others some
yeah.
such to
Yeah,
verify
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Because I can't do that.
Right.
I'm just the
Yeah,
person
I
who's
just-
responsible for collecting that.
Yeah. That's it. Okay, so we're looking at 25, okay. Then under the next thing, specific waivers. The planning board may approve a master plan development that meets the intent, blah, 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 but that deviates from strict compliance with the site plan. I just.
Is this
I
a
wonder
question about if the
it's
attorney is okay
very
with this?
convoluted. I just want to make sure that,
that meets the intent,
yeah,
Oops.
it's a little convoluted.
purpose, but that deviates from strict compliance.
Yeah, you're bringing this to my attention and I want to bring it to the attorney and say, hey, is this okay? Oh my God. Really should learn my lesson and bring my mouse with me places, but I don't.
Leaving your mouse at home. Your office.
So,
So normally we would end at 5.
Yeah.
Are we okay to continue for about 15 minutes? Yeah.
okay, so I'm gonna say check this with attorney.
Yeah.
Okay. You're like, this is too good to be true.
Well, I guess I just had that sensitivity around anything.
I
with
agree.
Waivers and.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's why I wanted multiple people to look at
Yeah.
this, because we're all in town, not.
So down a couple of paragraphs, B, development planning area, the following must be included in the MPD unless the planning director requests otherwise. What? I just don't want things
Yeah.
In your
unless
lap.
that's- yeah, in your lap, that's a little confusing.
Oh, I mean, to me, I would just want to make sure that I'm gonna just fly them for another attorney check.
Yeah,
But no, because that's really just, it gives me the power to do it if I want to.
yeah,
There's stuff in the code that's
But-
like that right now.
okay, but I guess the thing is to help you make that determination, there should be some kind of criteria. And it does, so, okay, so then it goes on to 1, 2, and 3. And 1, all adjacent and abutting land under the same or similar ownership must be included. Okay, similar ownership means parcels that have any common owners with legal rights, yep. Any, all parcels considered to be part of the same development phases, yep, all parcels. The planning director or planning board requests to be included for planning purposes. Again, it just feels a little convoluted to me. Is that clear? I mean, one of the things I think that this code does a good job with, for the most part, is it is clearer language than the current code. But there are a couple of places that's like, what does this mean? And this is
Yeah.
one of them.
To me, that would be, we wouldn't know what it is until we get there, and then we would be glad we had the ability to do it,
Okay.
which does exist somewhat in the current code. I
okay.
wrote all of these as check with attorney because they're
Okay.
rather broad for zoning ordinance, in my opinion, so
Yeah.
I will check these with him. If there's no issues with them and I'm okay with them, do you guys have issues with them?
I don't.
No.
Okay, great. I will just take that
Okay.
and do what I will with it.
Are you okay with
I-
that, Pete?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that there, we have things like that, that it's kind of just like, you don't know what you're gonna need it for
Right.
until you get that one situation where you're like, God, we really need that, and then, oh, it's there and we can request it.
So,
But it may be all moot and it's not allowed.
in that same column on 226, 2-26, E, streets, blocks, and open spaces. The location of streets, blocks, and open spaces in the engineered
Mhm.
subdivision submittal should not vary from the sketch by more than 50 feet in any one direction, unless otherwise approved by the planning board. Okay, that's another one of those
Yeah, so can I explain?
flexibility issues.
Yeah, and it's hard because I'm like, oh yeah, this is all fine, but then I'm like, no, it's zoning, it may not be fine, because all of this would be pretty fine in like a subdivision ordinance. I'll check this with the attorney. That one to me, if you're looking for like an explanation of it, would be that when they go to submit it, we would be able to say, nope, has to be within 50 feet, and they're like, no, we really don't want to do it, and we'd say you'd need to. But you know what? We'd say you need to request a waiver from the planning board, so I don't know how this works in zoning. So
Yeah,
I will
so
check
it's
this with the
another
attorney.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just such a subdivision coded section that
Yeah.
I actually
We're
struggle
getting
to
to the
remember
end,
where
but I
we
think
are.
we're actually gonna finish the article.
Nice.
So on to page 2-31 for me. Now this has come up with some of our developer friends. And I'm looking at, so 2-31, 149, open space required. One of the things that has been perceived about some of these requirements is that I think the wording was, it feels like a taking.
Mm-hmm.
That this requirements, like if I, for example, I'm a developer, I buy the whole MPD district,
Mm-hmm.
54 acres. And I'm gonna have to, there's a place here,
Set aside a certain percent.
Yeah.
Right.
10%.
For
2-32,
Okay.
overall minimum, a minimum of 10% of the total master plan development must be provided as one or more of the open space types. Now, I love the idea, and yes, this is being recorded. I love the idea, but I guess so I'm buying the MPD district, and I have to think about designing 54 acres, 5.4 acres of
Mhm.
open space.
You would basically already have to do that under our subdivision ordinance.
Because you can't develop the whole thing. Right.
Um,
You can't put structures on the entire.
Every inch.
Our subdivision ordinance requires open space as well.
Right.
Or you pay an in lieu fee. But this is which is somewhat popular, but it's gone up, and it is not uncommon for towns to just require open space. And our subdivision ordinance is stated in such a way that you are supposed to donate open space. And if that is not acceptable to the planning board, then a fee can be discussed. So it's really written in such a way to state that the open space comes first.
Yeah.
Effectively, that's not necessarily what's happening, but it is how it's written, so I would not necessarily worry about that here. I would say that is an important part of these types of developments, and you know, if there wants to be discussions about amounts or types, that would be okay, but I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Okay, good. I just wanted to sort of focus on that and have a
And
look.
oftentimes
Yeah.
they can set aside land that isn't developable, developable.
Yeah.
Like in my neighborhood, in the Ivanhoe neighborhood, there's land that's set aside, none of them knows about it, but
Mm-hmm.
because it was ravine and we
Right.
couldn't develop it, so
Yeah.
it's considered,
Mhm.
you know, kind of
Mm-hmm.
open space.
Mm-hmm.
We used to walk in and stuff
Yeah,
too. And
yeah. And there are quite a few types
Yeah.
of open space spelled
It
out.
gives them a lot of options.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, if someone wants to come to us with specific concerns about, you know, I think there's been issues about like flexibility of them,
Yeah.
you know, and that is something that we could discuss, but I definitely don't think that there should be any discussion of getting rid of that, because here, I was
good.
gonna pull up the subdivision ordinance for you guys.
Is this the old one?
This is the current one.
Current.
Which is relatively new, I think, right?
I don't know if I'd say that.
Okay.
The subdivider shall be required to reserve for land, for parks or playgrounds, or other recreational or open space facilities commensurate with the increased demands.
Okay.
So if someone wanted to subdivide that 54 acres, we would be fighting hard for them to give us open space, yeah. So I just would want to state that like it's in another place anyway.
Okay,
It's not something new, it's been there.
right.
It's
right, and
currently
it's
there.
Typically required, not an unusual.
It's not an unusual ask, and you're basically saying, hey, in this one small part of town, you can't do the fee. And that's not crazy to me, honestly.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
honestly, you guys probably allow more flexibility whoever owns that land, because that's what actually is the issue with our current subdivision ordinance. We don't have a lot of flexibility there.
Okay, we did it.
We did it.
Was
my
there
God.
anything else we were supposed to?
No, honestly, I looked back through my notes. I really just wanted you guys to read it, which
Yeah,
you did.
yeah.
And you caught things that I hadn't caught, and you discussed things, and we were able to I wanted you guys to be aware of what the new one is, because as we made that comment, you know, flexibility was taken out.
Yeah.
It wasn't replaced with creative
Right,
solutions, it was
right.
just struck. So,
We used to have another look.
yep,
Thing, and this is obviously not primarily for us because it's not Topsham Center zones, but there are Topsham Center zones affected. The use table. And we don't have to talk about that today, but I've got, in confessing, I have some anxiety about this use table. And what's allowed and what's not allowed. I think some, you know,
What's the page?
it's 6-3, so it's. That's the page. I don't know if you can find those pages.
Well,
very
there's a
easily, but
search, yeah, I just
it's
typed it
use
in and it popped it
classifications.
right
Oh,
up,
good.
yeah.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Cause I remember way back as we were beginning this. The current use table, which I think is a little bit absurd. It's a huge number of uses. And so this consolidates quite a lot. But there are also a few, I think, new things in here. That to just, I guess, part of it is to kind of identify things that we need to be clear about. They need to be allowed or not allowed. Just looking at each of our Topsham Center zones. We don't have to do this today, we can do it another time.
What's
yeah, you
allowed,
guys
Yeah.
could do this in August if you wanted to.
Yeah.
If you want to go over the use table, you'll have time to get to that before planning board does, since they're taking off July. Yeah. But I do think it's a good comment, because Susan, we've discussed that household living 1 unit per building is not currently allowed in the master plan district.
Right,
I
And-
think that there's an argument that maybe it should be allowed as part of a master plan.
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
maybe with some limitations.
Yeah.
Right,
We didn't decide that, just this was thrown out there, but I think that there is a single family in a great neighborhood that abuts that, and that
Yeah.
might be worth considering.
so just some of these things, the little symbols. So household living 1 unit per building. It's allowed in upper stories only,
Yep.
so.
So you could put like a small, like laundromat with a
Or a
apartment above it, yes. Yeah, laundromat came from somewhere, I don't know where. But you couldn't have a tiny neighborhood of small homes. Which,
So it's allowed, but it's allowed in very limited circumstances. In the same thing with a 2 unit
yep, agreed.
building, yeah,
I would say both of those should be, I think for me, maybe they should be turned on their head so that they're allowed as part of a master plan, I don't know how we handle the maybe it's,
right.
because I do understand the upper story by right without the master, but I don't know if we want that if there isn't a master plan on that lot
Yeah.
anyway.
And I think, where I kind of go back to, what do we want this code to do? It's not, so I want to be really cautious about where we prohibit things, but we've already got, and it's not that we have plenty of affordable single family homes, but that is the style. that is the proliferation throughout Topsom. And so what, I guess I look at what do we want to encourage? And that's. So I hear you, Sky. And I think turning it on its head and to be allowed as part of a master plan development, if we do that in terms of 1 and 2 units per building, so that those are allowed as part of a master plan, then we have to go back to the MPD regulations and offer some limitations there.
Yep,
Some
yeah, I think that would be fine. You could probably add something in there that says, you know, in the master plan district. So maybe you aren't limiting it other places, or you could just do it in general, if you wanted to.
I mean, like, I picture the master plan district as being more or less dense, highly dense. If there's housing, it's dense.
Mhm.
Yes,
So
yeah,
You can,
maybe it could be like row housing or something, you know.
well, that would be allowed because that's multiple units per
Okay.
building.
So I think
the
that
general.
that covers the single family part. Like if people want to live in a neighborhood.
Oh God, Joe's here. Joe, I had no idea.
oh,
Joe, I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were here.
Well, it was only within the last few minutes.
Oh,
I'm
thank
very
goodness.
sorry. I lost total track of time.
Oh, that's okay.
so did
I was
we.
playing with my tomato plants.
I hope they were playing nicely with you. We're glad to hear you.
Yeah, yeah. And my apologies to Pete. I never heard the message or the text.
No problem.
I think that means you're relaxing, and I think that's wonderful.
Yes.
So
Um,
just to let you know, Joe, that we went through pretty much all of Article 2 where any of us had anything flagged.
Hmm.
And there are a number of things where Sky is going to be talking with Leslie, and another few things where Sky is going to be talking with the attorney. I caught a typo,
Mm.
and one of the big, I think, catches was allowing a general building in the upper village.
Mm.
That, you know, just looking at the building types that are allowed in the
Sure.
zones, we made that change. Are you good with that?
Yes. Well, I assume what you're talking about is allowing it as it currently isn't allowed, and we would allow it. Is that?
No, yes, in the current code, it is not. In the current draft, it isn't allowed. We would
Yeah.
switch that. Under our current zoning, you could do something that looks like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're
Oh.
bringing it back to where we're at now.
Okay, yeah, because I was thinking of the property across from town, the town offices and the
Exactly.
Yeah.
jurisdiction. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, we're considering all important things. And the last couple of minutes, you know, because we finished Article 2, I put our attention on the use table in Chapter 6, Article 6. Confessing that I have a little anxiety about wanting all of us together to actually look at what is and is not allowed in every one of the Topsom Center zones. Because this is a very different use table than what we currently have. It combines categories, I mean, the point is that it's gonna be easier to use, but we just, I think, have to have a close look at all of this stuff. And one of the things that we did talk about at our monthly meeting a week plus ago was at the top of that use table, the household living 1 unit per building and 2 units per building. Right now, they're not allowed except in the upper stories of another building.
Hmm.
You know, Sky is suggesting maybe to allow those as part of a master plan development. Even with some limitations, so we're kind of thinking about that.
Is that something that we want Leslie's input on, or is that?
I think it's one of those things where I would be, I mean, I always appreciate her thinking through the implications of a change. But I think part of that right now is, my sense is, it's our understanding of Topsham. And
Uh-huh.
you know, Topsham is what it is, but we're trying to have some sense of Topsham in the coming couple of decades.
Mhm.
And understanding what demand is, whether we like it or not.
Mhm.
You know, that, and the area that is the master plan district does have, I mean, one of the questions that came up from developers is there's certain requirements in the master plan regs to consider all of the abutters.
Mm-hmm.
And it
And they
doesn't,
would come in and say, we want to do single family, we want to
Yeah.
do, you know, one
Yep.
street of dense
Yep.
single family, because there is a huge amount of market demand for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And we would say, I'm sorry, you can't.
right, and.
And that's my concern.
Yeah,
And that's why I said maybe we introduce some sort of percentage limitation.
yeah,
But, or, you know, but I guess, so I understand where you guys are coming from, where you're saying single family is what we have in Topsham, but what we don't have is dense single family. I really
Right.
don't.
Mhm.
I drove the interns around yesterday after kind of teaching them what zoning is and stuff. And we went from R1 to R3. We drove down to the swinging bridge and then up through Granite Hill where Andy lives, up out River Road. We went through Ivanhoe because that is non-conforming.
It's non-conforming.
Those lots are smaller than what is allowed in R2.
It's so funny.
Yep, it
Yeah.
is. Yep. And then out to R3 and kind of, you know, there were places where we're like, well, this feels like it belongs in another zone, or maybe this is a little not dense, you know. And even the densest part of R1, the historic district, just didn't feel all that dense to us. You could do more with that.
Yeah.
We can discuss this in August. I just want to leave you guys with that thought.
That's great.
Yeah, and when I go to planning conferences, single family housing is a part of it. We talk about it. It usually is discussed as, you know, how can you, you know, get a lot of it in tightly, because that's somewhat what people want, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a young person. I don't want to buy a condo.
Yeah.
I would maybe do a row house, but I really want a yard, you know, and I
Which
live
is
in
not-
Maine, you know, yeah, I live in Maine, so I don't want to be totally scrunched in there. Like I'd live in Boston if that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I think we do just need to be cognizant of why people choose to live in
Yeah,
Maine.
yeah.
And, if we want to, in this area that we see transforming, potentially limit that ability.
Yeah, I think part of what I keep hearing is, you know, looking at the housing problem. It's a multifaceted problem, and part of it is, the housing continuum.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that people are not moving out of
Nope, they're
things
not.
because there's no place to go.
Yep,
You know, there aren't the kinds of options
Yep.
that people need now.
yeah, because we talked about the Downs. They had that really small,
Yep.
dense, but
Yep.
those were single family.
Yeah, yeah.
They were
And
tiny.
And I would love to go back and just sort of look at, okay, what's the lot size?
It'd be
there?
fun to go there in the summer
It's
when
also building tiny. single
McKean
family
Street.
houses.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Off McKean.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
that one's a slightly interesting one because it's like, the parking is a little funky there,
Yes, they're like
honestly.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think I would have designed it that way
It's
myself.
interesting, but you know, it's
Yeah.
a different solution.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, I think they've sold and
yeah,
it's probably not a bad thing, but yes, basically just every conference I go to, it's part of it. It was in the Downs. It was incredibly
Yeah,
dense in
yeah,
the Downs. We're also not allowing 2 units either, which is important to think about because we're
Yeah.
not allowing duplexes.
Mm.
And I could see them wanting to do a string of single family out from that neighborhood that abuts the power corridor, and then maybe doing a street of duplexes and then getting into, and that's kind of what you want because
Just graduated.
graduated, because the people that live there live in an established,
Yeah.
fairly dense single family neighborhood. They may not love having huge general buildings, commercial just go in right behind them.
Yeah,
so
so
this is,
making a transitional,
Yes.
I like that.
I'm wondering, this is the first time I've thought about this, the public process. Should we think about field trips.
Hmm.
I mean, who has the time?
Mhm.
But I'm just thinking,
Or a slideshow, you know, we could
Yeah,
do the
yeah.
field trip and take the photos and
Mhm.
give a slide.
maybe,
Show
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
library. I don't think we
Yeah.
can expect townspeople to be hiking.
I'm just thinking about the way the update
Mhm.
process started. I wasn't part of the committee at that point, but people went out on bicycles and they looked at things. There was a field part of
Yeah.
the process. And, but I think you're right. We can show that with slides. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe, you know, we can try to, we can look into if there are other creative solutions for people to view, you know,
Yeah,
sometimes kind of seeing.
to give people the
Mapping
idea of
too
like
can help.
how this might look.
Yeah.
In reality, because when part of the thing that Leslie has tried to do is give us photographs, and some of them local,
Mhm.
but in some ways, we're doing something that's kind of new,
Mhm.
you know? So there's not a lot of photographic evidence
No,
to
it's,
share. Yeah,
yep.
all right, I feel like we're ready to end.
Mhm.
What do you think, Joe? You ready to end with us?
I don't think I get a vote in this. I don't know if you remember, but I thought we were going to do this a couple of meetings ago. So I had a list of items, and I think if it's all right with Sky, what makes sense is if I can pop in sometime and just ask you questions. About I had 4 items in section 2, for example.
Yeah.
And
You
I
wanna
only
send me
had
the list too,
1
Joe, so
in
I can
8.
review it?
I'm sorry?
If you wanna send it to me too, I'll check to see if there's overlap with anything discussed today or anyone else's issues. We
Oh,
can
that's a good idea.
have a
Okay.
meeting. But
Yeah, I will do that. What
Okay.
you'll get is the reference, like, you know, 2.40.7. I had a question, what is a class 5 truck? I mean, that doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything to me. Is it
Yeah.
20 feet long or 200 feet long?
No, yeah, send that to me because I'll go ask Tom that question.
Mm. Okay, well, and you can always, I'll do that, and then you can always call me if it's not clear, you know,
Yeah.
what the
Put
issue.
put your phone in the email. I'm not sure if I have it or not.
Uh, you're not sure if you have my email?
Your phone number if you want.
Oh, your phone number. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, right, yeah. I
Just
will
let me know what
include
works
that.
best for you.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
good.
All right.
Okay,
Perfect.
another great workshop.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Good.
Well, it was good for me. So our next meeting is,
July 7th?
July 7th, we moved our
okay,
July meeting 1 week early because on the 10th, I think, of July, we're gonna be kind of introducing Article 2,
mm-hmm,
Planning Board.
Yep.
And we'll have a workshop ahead of that so that we can
okay.
feel completely good about everything.
And so that's
That'd be nice.
Monday, that's a 4:30 meeting.
The
That's-
7th?
The 7th is our usual 4:30 to 6.
Yeah, okay, good. All right.
All right.
All righty.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
Joe.
you.
Bye,
Yep.
Joe.
Bye-bye.